As the wars rage in Ukraine and in the Middle East, the battle for global food security is intensifying. Ukraine remains one of the world's key grain exporters, while tensions with Iran are driving up energy and fertilizer costs, threatening harvests far beyond the conflict zones. The ripple effects are being felt across the globe. To discuss this further, let's bring in Skau, Executive Director of the World Food Programme, who joins me now in the studio. Good morning, Carl. Good morning. Great to have you here with us. Before we get to the global affairs, I want to talk about the people who really suffer in this war. You just came back from a trip to Ukraine. Tell us about what you saw. How are people struggling there?
I regularly visit the front line in Ukraine because we have operations from Odessa, Kherson in the south to Kharkiv in the north. We every day have deliveries on those front lines. I was there last in the beginning of March, where they have just come through a very tough winter. And I was there last week for a week, visiting all points of that front line. And frankly, the situation has gotten even worse because there are relentless attacks, drone attacks happening now. I was in Donetsk when they registered some 1,400 drone attacks in only 24 hours. And so the civilian population there is really terrorized, and what they call the killing zone has expanded from 15 kilometers from the active front line to some 50 kilometers, because that's the range that these drones are now attacking. And I met families who had left overnight their house. They had enough. Some had been encouraged by authorities to leave. And I met one family who had had their house destroyed overnight at one of these transit centers. So I think that, it's important also to keep an eye on the human dimension of this war, as always, but particularly on those front lines that are being terribly hammered right now.
You mentioned your frontline operations. What exactly is it that you can do?
So we deliver to almost 700,000 people who are stuck on that front line every month. And so where there are no markets, it's food, it's packages with food. Where there are some functioning markets, it's cash. And in some places, it's a mix of both, because the markets carry some products, but not everything you need to survive. But we're also supporting the children that are in these bunker schools on the front lines with school meals. It's a way of ensuring that they have at least one nutritious meal a day. It's also a way of making sure they come to the school, and we buy the food locally from farmers to help also the local farming community. And we are supporting farmers to get back on lands by surveying those lands so that they know what is contaminated by mines or other explosive ordnance, but that they can be back and farm on the others, which is important for food security in the area, but also for the resilience of those communities.
Let's switch to the Middle East for a minute. How does the war in Iran affect global food security?
Well, it's hit at many levels. I mean, the most immediate humanitarian impact has been, of course, in Lebanon, with hundreds of thousands of displaced people there. But at a second level, it has hit our humanitarian operations across the globe in two ways. One, the disruptions to supply chain that everyone, involved in moving stuff has felt. It takes 3 to 4 weeks longer to move rice from India to Somalia, for example, but also the costs. In the Sahel, for example, the price of doing business has gone up almost 30%, and we are already in a situation where the needs are outpacing the available resources by far. And of course, when our running costs go up, then less aid is delivered. The last and most serious impact is that it's driving up food security. So energy and food prices are very closely correlated. And in the poorest countries, people are now eating less, and food insecurity is on the increase.
All right, Karl Skau, Executive Director of the World Food Programme. Thank you so much for your insights this morning.
Thank you.